We gaan beginnen.
Missing somewhere. There it is. Chat. There's already some people working. We have the ABC. And yes, we're recording it. We actually need to piece it a bit apart. Okay. Yeah. So the question is, of course, what does Scrum tell you about ordering product backlog? Is that something that's up to the product owner? Is it maybe something that maximizes the value, or is it something that you collaborate on and based on feedback decide what it's going to be? Let's see, we see some A's, some B's, some ABCs. We strive for value, A and B. Like that, yeah. ABC. Yeah, we have some regulars joining us, so I think the some C, yeah. Yeah, of course, all the images are correct as they usually are. It depends, but it's up to the product owner. Actually, it says in the Scrum guide, it's up to the product owner to decide how he orders it makes sense since you're the value maximizer to organize this by value. And since we live in an empirical world, meaning more is unknown than known, based on feedback and on collaboration is sort of a good idea rather than just going with your gut feeling and saying, oh, this is the order. I can feel it. All right. So then let me ask you a question. How do you currently prioritize your work? If you could share that in the chat, how do you order stuff in the product backlog or work with requirements and with the teams and figure out what is the next big thing to do? And yeah, so Troy is using business value versus effort, politics. Yeah. Rice is a good meaning. Moscow, interesting. Customer focus sessions.
Politics, nice.
Yeah, and a lot of people quote value, but then how do you determine value? Because that would be the next question. Guesstimation, yeah. A prioritization matrix or a SATI model typically uses value buckets to determine that.
Shape up is also nice.
I'm not using Moscow. Yeah, I like the one with this one. Combination of feedback, gut feeling, customer feedback, and the boss screaming.
Hippo.
Yeah. And no stranger to that. All right. Hey, thank you so much for sharing. And so what I wanted to do is actually what I would love to do is have a chat with this guy. And Willem and I met him in the US at the Muster. And this is Jocko Willing. He's a famous Navy SEAL and he writes a lot. Yeah, he's a big guy. Actually, his forearms are bigger than my legs.
But then he's also more like, he's broad, but not high. So it's funny.
Yes, he's nice, like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found the next best thing, which is Willem van Mark. Willem van Mark was in the army and has experience with, just like Jocko, with commanding people in maybe more dangerous situations than your boss shouting. Well, it depends, of course. I'm not sure. They shout a lot in the army as well.
That's what
I thought it would be good to have this perspective because Willem also has a product background, and of course he's the author of 50 Shades of No. Oh, it's not called 50 Shades of No, is it, Willem?
Master the Art of No. It's coming in English any day now. Literally any day now. Today or tomorrow it should be there. Master the Art of No.
Yeah. So I wanted to pick his brain, basically do it a little bit different than the previous sessions where we were like talking a lot about tools and techniques. But just pick his brain as a guy with a military background, and then think about what can we learn from it as product managers to take a different angle than we normally do. And I thought of 4 main topic areas: prioritization, ordering. How does that work? How do you prioritize? What can we learn from military in that aspect? What is mission intent? How does that work, and how can we use this as product managers? Then one that I think everybody struggles with, but I also struggle with. How do you manage up the chain of command? How do you get things done when your manager either has no time or has maybe a different mindset, or how does that work? And then finally, decentralized command. So those are 4 topics we want to talk about. But Willem, maybe quick,
very brief introduction. Yeah, so good morning, everybody. Good to be here. So thanks, Chris, for asking me to be on the show today. My name is Willem Vermaak. I work currently at Xebia. In the last 2 years, I've been working as a product management consultant, helping various companies on their product owner and product development topics, with a history in agile and a bit of project management as well before that. And indeed, I was in the Dutch Armed Forces for 5 years as a platoon commander, and then lastly a company commander. And had some good lessons that I've learned there that I've been applying over the last years in product management and let's say Scrum working environments. Quick to say, it's fun to see that everybody thinks that the army is super rigid and hierarchical and everybody shouts, but actually it's one of the best places where I've seen self-organizing teams evolve around goals. So I think there's quite some lessons to be learned, and I actually use a lot of lessons that I've learned back then still in my work today. So we thought it might be a nice connection to bring product leadership and sort of army leadership together to see what we can learn from that.
Indeed, yeah.
I agree. I'd rather have Jocko on this show than me, so that's good to know.
It was actually fun meeting him, and Willem and I were over there last year, but before COVID, you know, when we could physically go to places and be in these big tin cans and breathe recycled air without fear of your lives. Those were the days. So let's get started. I tried to look for a picture, Willem, of a. Why is this thing? Somebody changed the on the. I think somebody.
There we go. Spoiler alert. Nice. En weer terug.
I think you did. Let me see if I can fix that. I remember somebody working on the transitions and me not checking that.
This is a good spoiler alert, but this is fixing stuff in production.
Yeah.
So this is a good introduction to the first, while you do this, because this is actually a nice introduction when we look at prioritizing versus ordering. So what is a priority and what is order? I think it's an interesting difference, because what we're seeing here now is it's a priority to fix this.
Something is completely broke.
The animation switch is guiding you through. There's a timer on the slides. Do you have waiting music that we can play?
Now, meanwhile, well, the picture was, of course, by a big guy in the army with a beard, and the question was, how do you prioritize work in a military situation or in a conflict situation?
I'm just seeing one other thing, Chris. Can you stand up for a little bit?
Like that.
Ah, nice. This is what it's all about. Also for product owners, extreme product ownership. Very nice. Prioritizing versus ordering. So the thing is, here it comes. If you go into a situation, and whether it's either army type of situation or whether it's just you as a product owner going into any type of situation, you'll get a ton of various varieties of priorities thrown at you. Everything is important at the same time, right? You go into and this is the same for a military type, combat type of situation, but this is the same for a product owner going into sprint review or being in a situation with multiple stakeholders. People come at you with all types of priorities. So the question is, what is the real priority now? And everybody will have a different opinion on this. And I think the way we deal, well, let's put it at myself, the way I dealt with it myself, also back in the army time, is if everything is a priority, then nothing really is a priority. So let's make sure that we order things in the most logical way, and that we think about that quickly, and that we think about what's the best order to deal with, and then let's move forward and execute, instead of having a lot of discussions whether something is a priority or not. So we go into a situation, on the one hand, somebody gets hurt, so we need to give medical assistance. At the same time, enemy is shooting at you, so you need to be able to maneuver and fire back. At the same time, your commander comes in with a special order, and everything at the same time. So it's about prioritizing it for yourself and then executing it. And I think therefore the consensus is also from a product owner backlog management point of view. It's not about who has the highest priority. It's not about who shouts the loudest or whatever. It's about you as a product owner bringing order to the various priorities that you see around. And I think that's an important discussion to have also with your stakeholders, to not talk in terms of priorities, but to talk in terms of order. What is the work that's coming in, and how will I, as a product owner, order that on my product backlog?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I just shared a picture of Nessie, of course, especially if there's Scottish people in the audience. I'm not sure if you're there. If you're there, shout out. The Loch Ness Monster, of course, is a typical thing that emerges in some organizations when there's a stakeholder saying, "Yo, this is really a priority." And one quick fix that you could do is say, "This is interesting. How often have we seen this, or how many customers have actually experienced this?" And that's sort of my fastest fact check to figure out if this is really a thing. So, and I guess when the bullets are flying, that's sort of instant evidence that things are in problems.
Something needs to be done.
All right, next one. Mission intent. Willem, this is a thing that exists in the Army when we talk about mission intent or commander's intent. And I thought it related a lot to goals versus features, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit about that.
It's so, let's start from my level at the time. As a platoon commander, you get directives from above, and it's logical, and this is what you see in organizations as well. If you go one level up, two level ups, the view becomes way more meta, right? So it becomes a wider view. So my commanding officer will tell something about a certain area that we need to take over, or a certain bigger group of people that we need to support. And at a certain point, only my element has a small say in that, has a small part in that bigger picture. And then I drill it down to my team level as well. So I tell them, okay, this is the bigger intent, this is the commander intent, the mission intent, this is where we want to go. Based on that, this is where we need to be. This is the house, or this is the street that we need to clear. And based on that, this is sort of all the fire team's objectives on your end as well. And this is how it drills down. And for some situations, we might give you the bigger picture, and that's what you need in order to go forward and to make decisions. And in some situations, it might be needed that I be very clear and directive on what's happening at a certain point. So I can only tell people really what to do, and they can only really understand it if they also do understand the bigger picture, because that helps them to be critical in, is this actually something that we need to be doing right now? Is this in line with the bigger picture, or is this sort of a sidetracking us from that bigger picture? And therefore, we always try to give the higher level, one level below, and just our level on what needs to be done. And this is, again, right, same for product management, where if you cannot share your bigger vision, your bigger picture with the team and where you want to go, they will never be fully connected, and they will do their daily work, and they probably do it well. But at the same time, how well are they connected to actually what we're trying to achieve as either a product team or as a company as a whole?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's also something I recognize, and it also works the other way around. So if you're a product manager, I was a product manager at some point. My commander, my boss came up to me and said, "Look, Chris, we had this offshore meeting with the board and the investors, and we thought about it, and we made a new plan for your product. And here it is. It's in the mail. Just go ahead and do your thing, have fun." Well, he didn't say have fun, but just make it happen, something like that. And I was like this confused private, say, why? And as a product manager, you can also ask them to, I can see you're really enthusiastic about this. This sounds like a great plan. Can you help me figure out what the intent is? Can you explain to me what the company vision is? Can you explain how this ties into our strategy? And thereby forcing your boss or whoever is in charge of that upper level to think about the strategy and give you the mission intent and say, actually, well, you know this is because we're going to make a shitload of money. Yeah, but shitload of money is a consequence. It's not the intent. So you could, but help me again. How does this going to work for our customers or for our strategy? And typically this will bring heads of products, chief product officers in a mode where they say, well, we want to go international, and we want to dominate the market, and we looked at the data and we spent some real time on it. We have these strategic alliances, and therefore we want to move into Germany. Hence, we need to have a German product. That makes sense. And now I know why you have to do it. Do we need to have everything in German then? Oh, maybe not. So now I can ask questions and actually help the commander to achieve his mission intent without just doing as ordered. So there's something that works both ways, I guess. All right. Hey, I also put up the goal-driven roadmap. Maybe as a product manager, can you help me how that could be a useful tool?
This is actually my, I think this is my sort of default go-to product roadmap that I 9 out of 10 times use. And I see a question coming in. I will look at that in a second. So let's have a quick look at the goal-oriented roadmap. Starting point, always know your bigger picture. Where do you want to go? So that roughly translates to the product vision, or in the newly adapted Scrum guide, you could say the product goal. As hopefully we all know, there's a new Scrum guide, and the great new addition that I think we as product people are really happy with is the definition of the product goal. So where is it that you want to go? And if you know that, you can really easily break it down. And now this particular roadmap shows quarters. Yeah, it can be whatever time frame you want it to be, but it helps you to break it down into various steps. So what is the goal of the coming period? What's the goal after that? What's the goal after that? And it's, of course, the further away, the more high level it should be. But this gives you a great opportunity to bring a lot of focus short term, but sort of intermediate focus in the longer term, which really helps teams to understand what it is that we're working towards to. So it's really one of my favorites.
Yeah, maybe to explain a little, a goal-driven roadmap differs from a feature-driven roadmap that it might talk about features, but that's not the point. What it typically does is give you a time frame, like a quarter or a moment where you typically release. So maybe around quarters is most common. But then you specify the goal you want to achieve. So we want to launch this new product. We want to move to Germany. We want to offer one-day delivery service. We want to automate 50% of our processes. That is the goal. Key features could be blah, 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 but it's not really about the features. It's really about communicating the goal. And the other really important thing that's in there is a metric. So going to Germany means we need to be available in like 50% of the stores. So success means this. And now my team can figure out, hey, maybe Chris came up with some cool features, but maybe there are different features that do a better job.
Yeah, just there's a question coming in from Doris asking about effort versus impact. If it also, but the fun thing is, it should be there because the metrics tell you the impact that you want to make. And as soon as you discuss this with your development team, because this is not being sort of, you're not sitting in your own attic coming up with this and then saying, this is the truth, this is what we're going to do. You're going to co-create and collaborate with your development team to build this, and they will help you understand the feasibility of this. So you should not be placing key features in the box of Q1 if your development team already tells you that it's impossible of building something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it might even, and I'm not sure if it works the same in the army, but it might be that at some point the team says, look, boss, this is something we simply can't do, or not in this situation, or it's too dangerous, or we need some different equipment. And still you can try to communicate your goal, but it might be that the team pushes back and says, well, not in this way.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so have I see Quim agreeing to this. Have your intent clear. Where do you want to go? Why do you want to go? Where you want to go? And based on that, decide what you're going to do. And then there's a small sort of a nice side thing. I saw a question with regards to the boxes on the flip chart. I think, by the way, I'm the guy on the left, so that's why it's clear why I have a beard now, because I have lack of a part of my forehead. So. Or chin, I should say. So that's, my beard is covering that nicely. So the boxes are tactical units. So this is brigade level, and then all the various boxes show infantry platoons, mechanized platoons, all types of various armies. So this is sort of a setup of, these are the units that we have. In the background of that map, that's where they're holding it. There's there's actual map of the environment, and this is how you sort of plot your troops over the area. Side note. There we go.
This was before there were Post-its in your life, Willem.
And digital, everything on maps.
All right, next one. Managing up the chain of command. And I found a nice picture, because when you look at organizations, or when you look, mainly organizations, things really haven't changed that much for the last 2,000 years. And this is a diagram depicting how the Roman army was organized. And the smallest unit was the tent unit. And the tent unit is, well, it's like 8 people who can sleep together in one tent. And it's also the largest size tent that you can possibly carry and still walk so many miles as a legionnaire. So they have to share a tent, and that sort of breaks down the unit. As with Scrum, we have this minimum size of a team. And if you make the team too big, it doesn't work anymore. Now, then you have a number of tents. The tents make up a party which is run by a centurion, and then a number of centurions make up a cohort, and at some point you end up with a legion. So there is this chain of command, and you can imagine that if you're in a Scrum team and you're working on a particular feature area or on a system, you discover stuff and you figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Maybe you have technical debt, maybe you have opportunities that you can achieve, maybe you're aware of some new technology that is around that would revolutionize the business. You spot these opportunities as a team and you want to get these things done. But how does that work? Because you can't go up to in this case, the guy running the centurion or the cohort and say, hey, boss, I have a great idea. Because probably they'll chop your head off in the Roman army. But and in some organizations they will also do this. But how does that work? How do I manage up the chain of command? And I think this is one of the key things that product owners often struggle with. So Willem, how do I manage up the chain of command?
I think this is one of my favorite topics in product leadership, dealing with sort of your superiors and dealing with people up the chain. And I see a lot of product owners struggling there, and I've had my fair share of sort of clashes as well, of course, also within the army, but also in business life. So this is such a funny topic. Just a side note, I see a question coming in the Q&A. Maybe it's good that we answer them at the end. So we'll run through the Q&A that we get.
Yeah, and if we don't get around to answer them, we will put them in the community portal.
Yeah, so if we don't get to answer a question, we'll put them in the portal. Okay, that's good.
Yep.
So this is a cool thing. The reason why, let's go back to Jocko. The reason why I love Jocko Willink is a big guy that you saw at the beginning. If he was a unit commander as well, and he has this really tough sort of Navy SEAL, big ass, tough looking thing. So if you go up to him, you go like, oh, I'm going to complain to him that my boss sucks, and he'll tell me like, oh yeah, but I'm a Navy SEAL, so you need to sort of hack and slash and push harder and go hard. And the funny thing is, he says, what have you done to build the relationship? And this is such a powerful question, because often we are so, as product leaders, but also sort of as platoon commander, you're so busy in your world, in your daily struggles, in your reality and everything. And you just want to get stuff done. You want to get stuff out there. You want to create value. So that's logical. And you get all these complaints and push from people up the command, and you just actually want to say, go away, leave me alone. I want to do this and I want to do it my way. And this is where one of the biggest things comes into play, which is often, I will not, of course, say everybody's the same, but often this is something around ego. I know I want it my way. I think I know really well. They're just pushing me. They're being irritating, and this is frustrating me. So the question back is, how well have you tried to build the relationship? How well have you communicated? How well have you tried to influence? Have you shared your experience? But on the other hand, how well have you listened? And how well are you open to understanding what it is that they need and that they want? And from my past experiences, there's two things that I always tend to do. One is I try to build the relationship. I really try to build an understanding with the superior. I try to understand what's happening in his or her world. What are their challenges, and really try to sort of get a picture of that. And the second thing is, even though I wrote a book that's called Master the Art of No, I say yes a lot, which is maybe weird, but what I try to say with that is, if I work with my superiors and if I say yes to the things that are doable and not that big and don't have that major impact, then by the time there's a big important no that we need to sell, because they're going to ask us to do something which really will not work, which will really demotivate the team, which will really not cause any value, my no will be twice as powerful, because they know me as somebody who is willing to work along, who is willing to cooperate, who is willing to do what's necessary. But at the same time, If it's no, they understand why I'm doing that, and I'm able to do that because of the built relationship. And this is a small nuance, because leadership is not about then being the yes person and sort of rolling over and doing everything that the boss tells you. And this is the fine nuance that you need to build for yourself.
All right. What about the Porsche?
Haha, Chris, nice.
Because you explained it to me, and I was like, oh, this is a cool example. So you have 20 seconds to tell the audience.
Here's the thing. The CFO, he drives up into the parking lot in this bright, shiny Porsche GT4. So what you can do is a few things. You can go, and the CFO gets out of his car and goes, hey, where are my numbers, right? And there's a few things you can do. You can sigh and you can be frustrated that he's only pushing you around the numbers and all these kinds of things, but you can flip it around. Somebody who drives a car like this probably has a bit of a passion for cars. So you can, this is a good topic, right? You talk to him about the car. Say, hey man, this is a really sweet ride. Have you had it for long? What are some of the specs? And this is just a stupid example of how you build the relationship, how you get to connect with somebody. And based on this connection and based on building this relationship, you can get way more stuff done. So it's so important to, especially leading up the chain, use your communication styles, use your knowledge about the product, about the environment, use your experience that you have, use your influencing skills to build this relationship. And based on that, you'll be able to collaborate and understand what's really important.
All right. I'm not going to give you 20 seconds again, because you just talked from that. We have one more thing that I want to cover before the end, because I think this is really important for product owners and product managers, and decentralized command. And I think the invasion of D-Day is a great example on how people were rallied behind the mission, but also had decentralized command. But how does it work for product owners? Can you give us in 1 minute a story about that?
This comes back a bit to the mission intent also. You as a human being, you can sort of lead up to 6 to 10 people. So you will not be able to lead all your 15 teams or all your 15 people in your team. And you want people to be able to make their own decisions. And you need to make sure that if people really understand the why and the what, then the better they can decide the how themselves, but also they can better decide the what a bit themselves. So you can help them understand what's important and therefore give them room to make their own decisions. And from a product owner and product backlog management perspective, this helps a great deal, because the more they're able to make their own decisions, the better it is for them to sort of move forward and make decisions. And that's, of course, what you see in the Normandy beach landings. There's not one commander running across all the beaches dealing with everything. We build a system of decentralized command that even up until the smallest person, we know this is the section where I'm accountable for, this is where I need to go, this is what I need to do. And the more that you get that within your product teams, the more they will be able to make their own decisions. And this is again about trust, about ego, about relationships. So it's evolving around the same topics there also.
So what kind of questions can I decentralize easily to? What can I decentralize to my team today?
Look at where their knowledge is. So from a traditional sort of Scrum point of view, probably you're building IT products, I'm assuming software products, these kinds of things. If you see the box on the right, there's sort of four quadrants that you're working in: bugs and defects, features, technical depth, and infrastructure and architecture. The bottom two are great. Give them to your team. Hey guys, I know that we need to build a stable system as well. Think about this. How would you fill these boxes? What should we put here? Type of work. And how would you order that? Right? That's something that you can ask today and gather input. And based on that input, yeah, you can restructure and reorder your product backlog.
All right. That makes 9:30. Sorry, we ran a little bit over time because of some technical difficulties. What I will do is people that need to go off, feel free to drop off. We'll answer all your questions in the community portal. So I'll take the chat and I'll answer that. But for those of you who have a couple of more minutes, I'll be more than happy to spend a bit more time and answer those questions. So one of the questions that came up is, what about OKRs? Do you think OKR and protocols should work together? If so, could a objective in the OKR be a protocol? Yeah, so I just released a blog on where I think protocols should be, and that's no by all means the one solution that works for everybody. It depends a lot on the organization. But I think OKRs are typically around business goals, business strategy, and the OKR would work very well within the context of a product strategy. So it is like a North Star for a number of sprints that we're going to work on, and that might align with an OKR, but I think OKRs are a little bit broader than product goals. If you're only one product, it's probably the same thing.
Yeah, and the way sort of adding to that, I would say if you look at the goal-oriented product roadmap, each goal that you have in this case, in your example, Chris, the quarter, each quarter has a goal with metrics. Those goals are not the product goal, right? The product goal is a wider sort of longer-term strategy thing, which of course can and should be adapted based on what you're learning in the market. But the sort of the smaller step goals, they could relate to OKRs very well. If you have, as a product owner, you have OKRs and you have a goal-oriented roadmap with goals and sort of metrics and features, you're probably doing it too much, I would say. So see how you can marry those two a little bit more.
Yep, agree. All right, and Lorenzo has what to do when teams who only focus on the two bottom parts of the chart, and you have to, we scrolled away. I have to force them to work on the top two. So yeah, we have a team and they're working on technical debt because, you know, Willem, technical debt, it's so important. We have this zero defect policy. We need to have infrastructure in place. We need to make an architecture to make us future proof. Yeah, we don't have time for features.
No. So we'll have a great highway, but no cars to drive on it. What a waste of the highway. So I think the word force is a trigger to me. Of course, Lorenzo, you've quoted it yourself, so I guess you know that forcing is not the right way. But this is again looking at that. This is looking at that relationship part also. This is I want them to understand that it's important that we do this. Is viewing it from your perception. So try to turn it around and look at their world. What makes it that they don't think about the features so much? So what makes it that they're so technical ingrained in the system? And having a sort of open discussion on this with your team is a great way to build understanding, right? So switch it around, say, yes, we do need to build all this infrastructure, and we do need to build, and we do need to fix all this technical debt, and yes, we do need to do all this technical stuff. I fully get that. And help me understand, hey guys, how can you help me talk to my stakeholders in the type of features that we're going to deliver to them, and how are we going to think about value for the product, not only from a technical perspective but also from a product feature perspective. What is a feature set that you think has been missing from the product? And it sounds easy, it probably is not. It will be multiple conversations, but it's really about building that mutual understanding and also helping the team to get that mutual understanding.
One more last question for Willem about saying yes a lot. And there was a great question about that from Petra, saying, if you say yes a lot, how do you make sure that all these small yeses don't flood the bigger roadmap topics?
Good.
And it's interesting because I've also been on a perspective from Gandhi, who says, if you always say yes, then your no means very little. So sometimes it's better to say no than a yes that you don't really mean. So I guess the difference is that you really mean your yes and you try to make it work. Yeah, so there's a risk.
There's a risk. So, well, my first response is you work a little bit harder to get it done. That would be the Jocko answer. So I don't think I get away with that. And that's also a bit of saying that with a wink, of course. So obviously, right, if you say yes all the time, your roadmap will get flooded and nothing will really get done and everybody will be frustrated in the end. So what I also said earlier, it's really finding that fine balance between these kinds of things. It's about balancing the yes and the no. It's about balancing the various relationships that you have with your various stakeholders. So there might even be some stakeholders that, you know, with my direct manager, I do really want to say yes the first 6 times, no matter what the request is, because that builds the relationship in such a way that if I actually say no, he understands that it really cannot be done. There might be some other stakeholders who come in occasionally who you don't deal with that much. You might be stricter in your no, but then you need to find a different approach to building that relationship and getting that understanding.
Yeah. All right. what I'll do, because we're 5 minutes past the time box, and I'm a product owner, but I'm also a little bit of a Scrum Master, so I'm not completely insensitive to time boxing.
I've got time to spare, Chris. Let's go.
What I will do is I'll put all the questions in a document. I'll work with Willem to answer all of them.
For sure.
Put them in the community portal so you can find everything there. Yeah, and for that, I really appreciate everybody sticking around and being here again. So I'll see you next week, which is the final episode before the masterclass. So we're going to talk about discovery, and then on the masterclass in these by heart, I think 7th of December, we'll spend a long time talking about making better decisions as a product owner.
But if you say a long time, then it should be 45 minutes, Chris. Then 30 minutes is not enough.
I think it's 1 hour or 2 hours.
1 hour.
It's part of the webinar week.
Ah, there we go.
Yep. All right. Thank you so much. See
Thanks,
you next
guys.
time.
Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this episode, move on to the next one. Or join us or follow us on Medium and LinkedIn to get inspired for more content.